Hello, welcome back. Good to see you, Ting. Ready for week 5, Art Week. How have you been so far, Ting? All right?
Well, not too bad, yes.
Recovered from last week and the crochet gate?
Well, it certainly raised a few eyebrows online as well. I think everyone was firmly on my side, I think, judging by the
Well,
amount of comments we generated as well.
let's take a look. We were overwhelmed with your comments. We normally get around 30 or 40 each week. Enough for me. I see that as like a class report, so I can sit there and reply to you all. But this week was
It
off
just
the
spiraled.
charts. And it was like 80 by the time by the end of the weekend. Like 80, that's a lot of writing. So I think you were like me. We just resorted to liking and then the odd one that caught our eye to comment to. So we've got just a taster of them here out of those 80. These ones stood out. So Suella says week 4 entertainment score 10 out of 10. In touch with reality score 0 out of 10. And then has this idea about the waste and that came up a lot in the conversations about the waste while you're making something. So can you offset that waste anyway? Or some of the waste goes into patchwork projects and all sorts. So that was a big discussion that came up. Anna, you'll like this one, Ting. Gentlemen, you owe me a new monitor. Starting from the made to measure round, I was laughing a lot and lost some wine. But look at this. So this is the only one I found on my side. Well, kind of. Stuart, I appreciate your attempt to provide a counterpoint and a balanced view about the use of crochet blankets. But as someone who took a whole year to crochet a scarf, I'm with Ting. One of many on Team Ting. Team Stuart, not so many. But a nice message here. Look at this one, Ting. Well done once again, Stuart and Ting. I was crocheting a granny blanket while watching. So totally agreed with all your comments. But this is the nice bit. Both of you had very valid points. As teachers, you are experts on critiquing fairly, not an aimless waffle, which some others can indulge in. Yeah, I think we did. I tried to fight that corner, the debate of my point, but there were just too many. And as Margaret says to finish off, Stuart, you cannot argue with Ting on this. He is right on all points over the crochet. Lovely,
I
eh?
think the other one that tickles me, and I can't remember the exact wording now, was the hashtag. Was it
Oh,
hashtag
team
crochet conspiracy or
team
something?
conservatory, yes, it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there is still, and it was kind of the same with this week when they actually admitted that they'd gone to the art school to get the canvases done, and it was like last week. It's like, did they commission those blankets because they just seemed a bit too? And like everyone said, you don't normally see them in
No,
charity shops,
no.
so there is still a question. Hashtag crochet conspiracy or whatever it was. I think that still could run.
And I think James as well made a comment about your blood pressure levels that episode too. Right, let's crack on. Let's see who we've got left then. And as you can see there, if I do this, my magic pen, we've lost Catherine, we've lost Gilly, Maria, and last week Matthew. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 left. And many of the ones who we've commented on last week are still there. And I think that continues to grow, doesn't it? Those ones that we talked about, Lauren, Asma, Tony R. Mia, though, with the crochet garment of the week last week, is she appearing in your final 4 or final 3, Ting?
Well, she's certainly hovering around there now. I'm
Yeah.
still hedging a bit. I mean, I don't want to do a disservice to any of the sewers that are on there, but in previous series, I've kind of gone, oh yeah, that's the one I want, and I'm still hedging my bets because it's this kind of neck and neck thing.
Yeah.
Just every time someone moves forward, somebody else then overtakes them. Whereas in previous years, we've perhaps had someone who has shot off,
Yeah.
quite early on, and it was quite easy to back, I
Yeah.
suppose, in that respect.
I think it's going to be an exciting rest of the season because we're halfway through. We've got then 4 weeks to go, so it's going to, I think, hotten up. Is that the right word for sure? Let's go into it then. The pattern challenge. and it was Remember Art Week. Let's clear that. Now, we haven't had, I don't think we've seen Art Week before, but as soon as they talked about it, I thought, all right, we're going to get some inspired by rounds. And I know we've talked about this many times before. We're not really lovers of inspired by rounds, but how are you feeling at the start of this episode, team?
I mean, I suppose there was that bit of trepidation, but we've already seen, in a couple of the other episodes where they've had a bit of a rethink or a bit of a reway in it. So I was prepared to keep an open mind. Let's put it that way. And I must admit, with this first pattern challenge, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the whole abstract art thing, but I think they did kind of focus a bit more on the skills. We were told that they were having to applique these shapes, that they were having to gather the skirt, they were having to make the waistband, they were having to make the bow and bag it out. So basic sewing skills you'd expect someone to be able to do. And it was kind of ironically tied up in a bow with this kind of pattern. I suppose where things started to go a bit awry is that they were kind of left to their own devices as to what they were going to applique on and where it was going to go on. That there wasn't a pattern for them to do that, and that's where we saw people trip and stumble. And plus, I mean, it was difficult using taffeta that they were then essentially zigzagging or blanket stitching or whatever they were using stitch on their sewing machine. It didn't translate very well to that sort of fabric, and it did rely quite heavily on them, choosing the right placement. And I felt that some of them, and it's difficult because the time limit, but I felt that some of them needed a bit more on there, or it needed to take a step back from it or space them out a bit more. But I thought it had potential, and then I'm not sure how I felt by the end of it.
Absolutely. I agree with you there that I feel the brief was kind of quite pinpointed for once, and it was the case of you've got to use these 10 fabric shapes, and it's like, that's good. Now we can then compare how well they use those 10 fabric shapes. It was a bit more obvious on how they were going to be marked. So, and then of course we know how hard applique is, or applique, depending where you're from. Same thing. So, well, let's take a look at the groups then. Where's my group picture? Which isn't going to show up. That's a good start, isn't it? There we go.
I need the group picture because otherwise I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's fine. So there's the group picture. So you can see the skirts. Now, my major problem with this, yes, we know the brief was, from that point of view, I think, specific. You've got to have the bow. You've got to put these 10 shapes on. But it's this whole inspired by bit. And I think this is where I'm going to throw a slipper, really, is that if you know what the modernist period is, you can go with that. But it's a lot. I still think it's a lot to assume that everyone knows what that is. So let's take, for example, Matthew and probably Lauren. They knew what colours they wanted to use, but it's inspired by, if they didn't know what modernist was, then are they just being inspired by, modern? Grey is very modern at the moment. All we ever see is grey. It's like the new beige, isn't it? So I felt a bit bad for them in that respect, that they were being judged against a criteria that if you didn't know what modernism was, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, but then part of me was like, honestly, when you looked at your skirts, did you not think, whoops, I've done this wrong? Because even if you're not quite sure of what modernism is, the fact that I think she'd used black, hadn't she? And he'd used a very light grey.
Yeah, so let's get...
And she'd used dark on black on a very dark colour as well. And it was like, well, even I know that you would want it to stand out for that modernist movement. You don't have to be an art critic to kind of get that sort of thing. And, in the past, we've had the whole Frida Kahlo inspired thing about having those clashing colours and things like that. I know I normally do get on my high horse about these inspired things, but I thought this was relatively straightforward, and they messed it up. I honestly think, you were given there, and also I know you're doing your own thing, but there are 7 other people around you, and you can see them with these bright colours. And I know that, I mean, they even asked Tony, didn't they, I think? And he was like, well, I think this is the, because of all of that. So, he made that decision. But I think that
Yes.
the whole idea was it was supposed to be contrasting, and they just didn't quite grasp that contrast thing. And that knocked them down.
Yeah. I suppose
Quite
it's a
rightly
case of
so.
at what point do you go keep to your belief and keep with your aim, and or stop because everyone else is doing something different? Is that brave, or is it just silly?
I think you have to, and this is where the whole inspired by week tips me over the edge, but I think when it's something like an inspired by week, you've got to have your wits about you, and you've got to look around and see what everyone else is up to, because that inspired by is so subjective, as we've seen
Absolutely.
in previous series. And I just think that, I might have sat there a bit like Tony and gone, oh, this would probably look quite nice if I had this kind of shimmery effect where it wasn't, kind of melted into it. And then if I'd have stopped and just looked around the room and gone, oh, hang on a minute, everyone else is doing a contrast. It's then when you say, have I not quite got this right?
Yeah. And also, we know not the modernist period, but the shapes put me off a bit. And I know they made this comment a couple of times. They look like kids, bold and bright. And I think some of the sewers even said it's a fine line of looking like something I've made from a kid.
Yeah.
I know you had to use 10 shapes. I think you had choice whether it was 10 circles or 10 blobs. So you had the blob here or the circle there. But it looks, because I think, oh no, Lizzie has got a flower. I think I would have ditched that flower one, but it looks like perhaps they didn't have a choice. They were given 10 and they had to use 10 of the multi rather than 10 of one design.
I don't know, because I think the others, I think Tony and Lawrence, they did just use circles, I think.
Oh, did
and
they?
Someone
Let's have
else,
another look.
Clove just used the flowers, didn't she? And that's what got her in trouble.
Oh, yes.
Because
They're the
she
circles.
made it look just very floral.
Yeah. What did you think of the applique technique? Oh, I've lost you. You're completely frozen. Maybe you'll come back. We'll keep going and see if you reappear. Otherwise, I'll have to do some editing. What did you think of the applique technique? Because if you look at Lauren's applique...
Well, and I mean, it's difficult. I suppose I don't like applique.
It's
I've
hard,
tried
isn't
it
it?
once and then decided I was never going to do it again. So if I'd turned up there and then suddenly they say do this, then mine would probably look like that. If you don't do it very often...
Yeah.
Then you're not going to do it. I would imagine some of the other people, they were probably a bit more of an old hand at it, or maybe do it more often.
And don't forget, you've got the speed against you as well. So it's hard enough doing applique, let alone doing it under the clock.
And it's a circle, which, sewing in straight lines is easier than sewing in a circle.
Zigzag over a circle, yeah.
Yeah, and on taffeta. So, the whole thing...
You've got to get these
bits. It was stacked against those of them who were not used to doing it. I think Tony's was horrific as well, wasn't it? That kind of added to his kind of low score.
Yeah, many of them had issues with it, but as a watcher, as a sewer watcher, it was nice to see it being picked up on the judging. I can go, yes, I can compare that. I can see that with my own eyes. Yes, his is better than hers, and hers is better than hers, and so forth. So I think I enjoyed the simplicity of this round because it was, as you say, it was those sewing skills. Let's see them. This three criteria and how well it's done.
That kind of helped, because in the past, and I'm not saying we've possibly got it coming forward in this episode, and certainly before, we don't really understand why they've given the scores they've given, and you then get it banded around. And I know some people have said in the comments, maybe not this series, maybe last series as well, it's like, well, you don't actually know the standard of the sewing, and you're right, we don't. We're not stood there, we can't see every seam, we can't do that, and they certainly can't film all of that. And so but then sometimes you just think, well, hang on a minute, how much of it is shoddy sewing? How much of it is shoddy judging? Because sometimes you do want to question why they've done it. Whereas here, as much as I like Tony and Lauren, you couldn't disagree. You couldn't disagree with what they said.
Indeed. Well, let's have a look at let's have a look at the other end, because Tony was 8th. He was at the bottom of the sewing list, and then Lauren was 7th. Let's look at 1st and 2nd, and yes, we had Lizzie up in 1st place there. So let's get rid of the group shot. Oh, thanks, Lauren. We don't want to see. There we go. Lizzie's. Now, even from this long shot, you can already see there is hardly any puckering of the taffeta as she's done her applique. That stands out well compared to the others. What did you think of her placement?
But then that's where I was kind of like, well, I mean, I think I missed the thing about they had to have at least 10 on there, because I was like, it needed more. Or it looks like everything on her dress has fallen. It's like she's shaken the dress and everything's shot down to the bottom. And I just felt it needed to be, I don't know. But then am I trying to make it too regular by having them, a bit more spaced out? It just felt that everything had dropped down to the bottom on here.
It's the idea of, remember, of the thirds. And in design, in photography, anything to make it look a bit more interesting, and this is what she's done, I think. So you've got your third 1, 2, and she's got the things down there. I would have probably done the same, and she's also, I think it's the angle of it. She's put them down into one side as well. I think that's why it worked more than the others, where they were kind of all over the place, as in all over the skirt.
Yeah, but I felt it needed to be more all over the place.
All right. Well, let's go back to the group shot again. If I
felt it was a bit too crowded when they were all down.
There's this one, Vicky's, which is all over the place, and then
even Asda's next to her. They're more spread out.
Yes, they are. Yeah, indeed. But again, this is the modernist-inspired thing, isn't it? I think Mia has gone for the similar thing as Lizzie down in the bottom half. Though saying that, one of Asma's is near the bottom, so I can understand why Lizzie's was there. But let's take a closer look at Lizzie's. Let's get rid of that, Lizzie, and then let's show you her applique of the green circle. And wow, now that's. Remember the time constraints, and it's a circle, as you say, Ting. That's impressive, applique.
Yeah.
Because there are no annoying, puckers trying to do that at all, and it looks quite. I know there's a couple of drop stitches here. That was probably the needle. Going wrong there, so ignore that. But that is impressive. And who else was top? Lizzie came first. It was. Go on.
Let's face it. I mean, Lizzie could have sewn anything onto there, and you'd have loved it.
I know. I knew that was coming. I knew that. Favoritism? No, we're not biased here at all. Let's look at. Let's look at Asma's there. It's just those pieces, though, that leaf and those flowers there. But I think I've got a close up. Let's take Lizzie off. Asma. Oh no, there you go. So a longer shot there for Asma. But you're right; they are more spread out there. But is it too spread out? I can agree with Patrick's point. Should that flower have just been a little bit higher?
Well,
but that's the thing.
It was always going to be. There was no hard and fast rule where they could be placed.
No. But there we go. So we had Lizzie first. We had Asma at the top, and then at the other end we had Tony 8th and Lauren 7th. So there we are. Let's go on to the next round, transformation round, which I was rather excited about. And that's probably because it took me back to teaching Year 7 art when I used to do that. And I thought, right, we're going to see some stunning stuff. And from my point of view, we did see some stunning. I was bowled over by all of them, regardless. What did you think of those? Oh, maybe not. Is it just me? Come on, right, Tim. They're stunning.
No, so just give me a chance here, because I've got my fan club who'll back me up, I'm sure. The thing is I looked at that, and do you know what? There are some good. You've got these two on the end here, which I think Asma and
Mia
had done there. From a silhouette point of view, that's fine. and I know that we're now 9, 10 series or whatever it is in, and so I get it that maybe somebody is sat in the back room planning the series going, what are we going to do for the next thing? But at what point are you thinking, oh, I'm going out tonight, I know what I'll do, I'll rip the canvas off the wall and turn it into a dress? You know, it
it's
was
almost
that bit of it that kind of just annoyed, because the other thing, and I know that the canvas is thicker, and so you can get this lovely sculptural stuff, and I love that sculptural stuff, but I also love the pattern. It's like, I know you can get those, you could have had hand-dyed fabric that they could have worked with a bit more. Yeah. I just feel that the whole, cutting up, you just wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't cut up a canvas. You wouldn't do that sort of thing. If you were an artist, you would reuse your canvases. You wouldn't be
paint
cutting them up.
Absolutely.
And so it was a bit like the crochet thing, where on principle, I was kind of like, this is ridiculous. But then I thought there were 4 good designs, and then I thought somebody was dramatically underjudged, and some people got away with it. And so then the slippers started flying at the judging of this. You can add a slipper for the whole canvassing, because I wasn't overly impressed with that. But the judging of this, I was then fully raging.
Okay, so slipper number 1's gone up. All right, before we go on to look at the individuals then I can understand that point, that it's very similar to last week. Do you think this could be the first sign of the sewing bee going down the route of the bake-off, where they feel that they have to, because it's gone on so many years, they now have to start making the rounds more extravagant and more elaborate to hook the viewer in than just doing a basic jacket or coat or trouser?
But I don't think it does hook the viewer in, because a bit like the crochet last week, this grates on some people's. There'll be some people out there who are artists and will be screaming in the same way that I was with the crochet last week. And like I said, it was art week, so you could have had hand painted fabric that you could do stuff with. There are ways in which that can be done.
I agree.
This was gimmicky.
Well, that's
absolutely gimmicky.
That's what I'm saying. Is it because Bake Off has got like that, where it's not just a cake anymore for the last round? It's making something absolutely weird and wacky that an amateur baker would never actually do. Well, let's hope it doesn't carry on like that, because if it does, I think we will lose a lot of people who watch it, because there's only so much of these gimmicky things you can take per season. And yes, maybe that was last week for Reduce, Reuse, Recycle week, but now we've got this week. I hope we don't have another gimmicky one next week and the week after, because then it's just like, well, how can you do that as an amateur sewer, But anyway, let's look at them. Let's go into let's go through which ones I've got. So I'll go alphabetically of the ones I've got.
Oh, well, that worked last week, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be better. Well, you're not going to look at them all, just ones that stood out. At the top, what I thought the top ones that they liked and the bottom ones that they liked. So the controversial one for you, I might not have a picture of, so we might have to go to the group shot. But yes, Asma's one. She came first on this round.
And quite rightly so. Look at the sculpture. She did take the brief to heart. The canvas will hold its shape. So, of course, make a big shape with it. And she's done that, and she has done it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that at all. And all of the others needed to look to Asma for that, because that's what you needed to do. Yeah. That's what you needed to do. We know it isn't practical to be worn or anything like that. But I also don't think it was practical to try and sew a garment, because canvas doesn't go through that sewing machine. We saw needles breaking. We saw people trying to hand sew stuff. That was where the task was ridiculous. Yeah. But if you're going to do it, it needed to look like that. Okay. And that's why she quite rightly, did so well in this round.
Let's remind the audience of the viewers, the many, many viewers who are watching us, of the round. They went to the fine arts students at the Leeds Art University, and they got their canvases. And basically, they had to take one of the canvases and turn it into a garment. But then Esme chimed in, as always, with the development of the brief, and they expected it to be sculptural. And I suppose that was obvious because of canvas. But then this is where I get on my horse. Someone's version of sculptural, which you could argue that is very sculptural, doesn't mean that this or this is not sculptural. It's just sculptural in a different way. So that got on my goat a bit. But anyway, so that was the brief. So Asma came first, and let's look at the second one that came second, which was my favourite. I don't know about you, was Lauren's. What did you think of that one?
That was one of mine.
Was stunning.
Again, but this is where I was then like, well, this could have been done with fabric, because you could have got those shapes using boning, using interfacing, things like that.
Sorry. Trying to find Lauren's second
again, it was a very good. This was one of my favourites. I said I had 3, I think it was, and this was one of a 4, I think, and this was one of the 4. But this could have been done with hand painted fabric that was then boned, interfaced, whatever.
Could they have done that in 90 minutes? The idea of being on canvas meant they could skip all that, couldn't they?
But in the same way the canvas was already prepared, you could have had fabric that had the interfacing already on.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But it was when I saw it, and I thought, what did I write here, Lauren? Gladiator, and then Patrick went, oh, it looks like armor, and I thought, oh, yes. So
more like Xena, warrior princess. Those old elderly among us.
Now at the other end of this, oh no, let's talk about Mia, because I have got Mia's here, because Mia's was stunning. Let's get rid of that. There, Mia's. What did you think of Mia's?
That was another one of my 4. Yeah,
almost elements of Lizzie's sculptural one.
Oh,
do you remember that one? Come on, audience. You agree, don't you? It's not me having a favourite at all. But similar, with the pleats at the top and then zhuzhing down like that. And that just reminded me of something 80s. I could imagine someone
absolutely.
on top of the pops wearing that. Can you?
You have to do that with that fabric, because the fabric, as they pointed out, it had no direction to it. So you could do what you wanted. So by putting all the pleats in, folding it and doing it, you could do that with the pattern that was on the canvas.
So we had understandably first and second from Patrick and Esme's point of view, and then at the other end of the scale, we then had Tony W now coming bottom again, and then you're already going, right, it's bottom twice.
Right,
You start thinking, go for it.
Get the flipper ready then. Oh. So can you go back to the main lineup? So everybody,
sure.
look at that one. Look at that one. Sorry, I'm going to make you right now. Go back to Tony. Go back to Tony's one. So
Tony.
we're looking for something sculptural. And so you've got the high collar. You've got these sleeves or, things here. And that's all holding its own weight.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so now go back to the main one and tell me how he came bottom, and you've got the 1, 2, 3, the 4th one along.
Yeah.
So move 4 along from him, that one, and then go along another 2 to the one that looks like an apron. How did they come before him? Because both of those are rubbish. They are not sculptural. That one looks like an apron, and that was just a smock, number 7.
Well,
it had no shape to it. It wasn't sculptural. And even Esme said, oh, it's too stiff. I felt for Tony, because I thought, he'd had a bad first round. That had gone quite bad. I looked at this and thought, he's not going to come first, but it is sculptural. It is holding it. It's got some shape to it. It's got a good silhouette. Yeah. Those two, flat as a pancake. And, Lizzie's was an apron, and the other one was, just a high-cut top. It wasn't even, it wasn't sculptural. And yet they came above Tony. Now, I'm not saying Tony's was wonderful, and he did struggle, but that has got shape to it. That's got no shape. It's just a sleeve and a front and a back.
That was Vicky's.
And Lizzie's was just an apron.
Yeah, because this is hanging. At least Tony's was sculptural from that point of view.
And so that's when the second slipper went, because, not that Tony should have come first, but he shouldn't have come last. Those other two were not sculptural. The other Tony, the blue one there, the way he'd cut and folded his fabric or canvas, that, okay, that maybe it's still quite a flat shape, but it got a bit more texture to it. Those two were just basic dress, basic smock,
Yeah.
made out of canvas. Nothing sculptural to it, nothing dramatic to it.
Absolutely, and then this is where even us as the amateur sewer, I mean, even more amateur than these fabulous bunch here, we can still see that from the judging, and you can imagine. Well, it'll be interesting. Viewers, let us know if you think that this was Lizzie's, and well, we know Vicky was 7th anyway, but it's the question of should Tony's have been higher?
Stop with the pen, you and your pen.
Let us know if you think that. Yes, because he was rock bottom. I don't think it should have been bottom for sure.
No, and it that's where I need another slipper.
Okay.
That's
Yes,
where
let's do that.
I was furious because I wasn't like saying Tony had come top and should have beaten everyone there.
No.
But I just felt that those two should have been, okay, that should have been 8th, 7th, so that would have made him 6th.
Yeah.
But I just feel that he had tried to do something with that, and it was sculptural.
Yeah, and also let's not forget, I think he was the only one that put a bias binding round the edge. When you look at Vicky's, where's Vicky's? Here. Let's get rid of Tony's. There's nothing on there. It's just a raw edge. Some of them had raw edges, so it does seem. You just think, oh, yeah. What did they miss? And has he got some darts in there too?
He's got some darts in there,
yeah. Okay, second, and understandably so. And this is what I said at the beginning of the round. Someone's opinion of sculptural or what that actually is. How do you, just because someone's got lots of sculpture doesn't stop another garment not being sculptural, does it? Just because it's sculptured in a different way. Absolutely agree. So there we go. We then go into the made to measure with Tony and almost Lauren in some case, because Tony and Lauren were bottom for the first round, and then Tony and Vicky this time. So yeah, it wasn't. Tony was going to have to pull out all the stops really. So for made to measure them, which is where I threw my slipper, but I can't add that to the total. You might add to it. They had to make it simple. They had to make an outfit inspired by surrealism. Well, let's get rid of Vicky. Let's go back to this one as well. We're bigger. You know how big a topic surrealism is. It's huge. So how are you going to mark them on something so vague as you're inspired by surrealism? And if I know anything from my teaching, my Year 7 art, you give them something so vague like that, they're just going to pull out one major thing from the most famous picture. And that's either going to be a blinking clock or an eye. And what did we have? We had eyes.
Well, so yes, we're back to the inspired by, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to hone it down. You can't give them such a huge brief like that. And I know even from the drama days, you think it's a nice brief because it means they can do whatever they like. But actually, it's the hardest brief because how do you hone your idea down? Because there's so much scope. So you get lost, don't you?
But I'll also tell you why this annoys me, and it's because if it was like, oh, you've got to make an evening gown, you've got to make a waistcoat, you've got to do all that, then you can go out and do your research, find a fancy waistcoat pattern, find a fancy dress pattern, go and look at all the dress patterns in the world and find the one you want to do. When it's an inspired by round, what do you do? What pattern do you look for? How do you narrow that down? And in fact, what you're then asking them to do is become a designer. And this is the sewing bee. And I know that you have designers who then make stuff, but I'm not a designer. I like to get a pattern, whether that's a pattern for a scarf, a pattern for a quilt, a pattern for whatever. I like a pattern that I can follow, and I want to create that item. I am not someone who could sit down and draw my own pattern and create my own things because I'd get lost. And then I wouldn't like agree. The kind of thing. It wouldn't look right because I'd sew it all together and go, oh, hang on a minute, that doesn't cover it. And then you've wasted your time and your money and all the effort doing something. When you buy a pattern, you know what you're getting. Well, hopefully, because your skills are good enough.
Oh, absolutely right. Yeah. And you're an amateur sewer. You sew it because you like sewing, not designing. You like sewing.
Some of these had to then take a basic dress or a skirt or whatever they were doing and then try and do something, surrealist with it. Yeah. And in fact, the other Tony, where I thought, where he made the black with the "this is a dress," I loved that. Because I thought, well, that is that kind of a bit more surreal, and what more could you do? And yet they were going, oh, I don't think that's going to look right. And it's like, no, because it's not your interpretation of that. Absolutely. But you didn't say, make a dress inspired by Salvador Dali. You said surrealism.
Absolutely.
So they could do whatever they wanted.
Is that worthy of a slipper? Can I catch on that? Did you throw a slipper or not?
If not, I think we could have thrown one between us if you'd been there. So that would be up to 3.
Absolutely agree on every aspect there. You're an amateur sewer who likes to sew, so just give them a pattern to sew, and then let them use their creative juices from choosing the fabric or whatever things they add to it. So let's look through them. We've got all the pictures, and we are 20 minutes in. So yeah, we can spend 20 minutes on this and still finish at 1:45 and not have an hour show. So let's start with asthma. Then let's go to that screen, and then here we go. Well, silence says it all. Yeah, it just didn't. I didn't do anything for me, really. Let's look at a long shot.
The thing that got me is that I mean, I kind of got the concept, and if you're standing this far back, you kind of think, okay, I know what you were trying to do. But close up, the woman had to have a swimsuit underneath. It was just twisted bits of fabric. That it needed to be better top.
Yes, it was too ropey. Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, it's almost as good as a mixed bag joke.
Oh, you and your puns.
Yeah,
hated it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Then we've got Fauve next. So let's take asthma off and that one off. Oh, so many buttons. Fauve. Oh, well, the silence says it all too.
I mean, I can appreciate the work that went into it because she was trying to attach that lace to that fabric or leather or pleather or whatever it was. The basic design with the kind of they call it like the what is it? It's not neckerchief. What is it? Handkerchief.
Yes.
Head line and everything. Yeah. I'll get my words out in a minute. Yeah. I kind of liked all that, but I just the whole surrealism was because it had the white netting and everything in it. I didn't like it, and I certainly don't think it deserved to get Garment of the Week.
Yeah.
They were moaning at Tony for having a black dress.
Yeah.
And this was like, well, this has got no shape to it. There's nothing special going on up top. It's just an off-the-shoulder number.
It is. There looks a bit excess there, I thought. Yeah. I didn't know whether it should be a bit more sleeker and sharp. Don't get me wrong. The pleats here are great, and then the sewing all that lace on, that's clearly skills. But
this is a made to measure, and it doesn't look like it was made to fit her bust.
No, I agree. And you then can argue the whole inspired by you'll have to listen to Fauve's some kind of origin story for this. You wouldn't just tell from looking at that straight away and go, "That's surrealism," would you?
No.
Not compared to some of them, which were, with the eye on, so you could probably guess straight away. Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Lauren. Let's get Lauren. Thanks, Fauve.
And for those of you today, we'll be learning our alphabet.
There's thought in this one, isn't there?
Yes. So, again, whether it's slipper-worthy, I don't know. But Lauren had thought about it. She had done what we've just said, had to think and go, do you know what? I'm going to have to be a bit of a designer to do this. And then they had the nerve to stand there and go, oh, well, I think it'd look better if it didn't have the white ribbon around. Well, how is she supposed to make it stay there? How is it supposed to work? Yeah. I thought it was a good concept that she'd adapted to the thing. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but then when she actually came out in it, the model came out, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I think you've done quite well here. And yet they weren't impressed with it.
No.
It was just like, oh, you had to go and nitpick at it.
And that's because they're almost, it's like the teacher like me, when I gave my year sevens, the surrealists, I learnt this the hard way, and I got back their homework and it was all full of eyes. And I was disappointed because I'm seeing the same thing. It's because of my ineptness of giving a specific brief. So they were gutted, probably, because they weren't maybe seeing as what they wanted to see. Well, it's because of the... Well, no, it's not the judge's fault, really, because it's the producers that probably chose the brief. Well, they just judging it.
Judges are the face of the show, so the judges, if they wanted to see something more specific, they should have been more specific. This is surreal. She's wearing a shirt without wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
It's on a hanger in front of her. And she's got that huge voluminous skirt. That doesn't get thrown together in 2 minutes.
No. Look at that netting, all that tulle. Would you want to sew all that?
I just felt that just because it didn't fit with what they wanted to see, then it's rubbish. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, you gave them such a huge brief.
Indeed. Get your criteria sorted. That's what we always say when you're judging. Get it sorted. Right, then we have Lizzie. Oh, got so many buttons here. All right, go. There we go. Lizzie.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
It didn't, no, and I say it didn't work. It was too chalk and cheese, wasn't it? You've got something special here and then almost the opposite there, haven't you?
And then she's just got two appliqued eyes or sewn eyes onto the sleeve. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, she's got a couple of vents there for when she's got sweaty pits on the go, but I don't really.
It's taking it literally, isn't it? Right, darling, we see the eyes all the time, so let's shove an eye on.
Yeah, but look at that waistband. This looks like something you'd put together for a school show. That doesn't look neatly finished.
No, I think the eyes, if they were gold and blended in with the... I can understand their point. This wasn't finished because they were like almost Suffolk puffs, weren't they? And a lot of skills there, but not properly finished for the time, was it?
I have to admit, I mean, to be fair, I'd gone and seen Tony's attempts, and by... the first 15 minutes, I was like, I reckon Tony is definitely on the list to go home.
Yeah.
But at this point, I mean, I think at this point, Tony's fate was sealed. But I did think that Lizzie has not had as good a week as she has perhaps had in the past.
No.
Not enough for her to go home, but it does, we've said before, one bad week.
But does this come into what you were saying that when we had that discussion about, right, they're sewers. Poor Lizzie probably had to spend so much time coming up with a concept for what to sew, finding a pattern, rather than just being able to sew a pattern that they gave. Right, you're going to do dinner jackets. Go and find a dinner jacket. And then you then get muddled up, and then you're too busy trying to work out your concept that your sewing goes to pot because you're having to do something that.
Well, you would think that because she's your girlfriend, but yeah, okay. I think that does play a part of it. Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's move on to swiftly moving on to Mia. Oh, if I can get my button.
You're not doing very well with the buttons this week.
I know, it's because I've got. Normally, we only have one shot per person, but because I've got 2 or 3 shots per person, it's a button bonanza.
I quite like this. I thought this was quite fun. I thought it was quite fun.
Just because it's fun doesn't mean it goes up the list, though, does it?
Well, I think it deserved to be higher than what it was.
Oh, really? No. This to me felt. What I think I like about Mia's idea was she went a different route down the surrealist route, didn't she? As in, let's just make something surreal, like rather than an artist. What are you laughing at?
I think they all tried to make something surreal. They just did something better than others.
Yeah. But because you can't really make out all those lovely puffs there of tulle, it just looks like one big lump of puff.
Yeah, but that's because it's white and the picture. What would you want it to do? To have them all different colour puffs? Because then it would have looked ridiculous. I
Oh no,
like
that
the
would have
general
looked really
concept.
nice. That would have looked very surreal, wouldn't it?
No,
Even though I know she's
no.
trying to do a cloud, wasn't it a cloud?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I quite liked it. Again, I'm not saying it should have won, although they were talking about it as a potential, didn't they? When they did
Yeah,
Garment of the
yes.
Week.
But
And then when it stood there with the mannequin and it was straight as straight, I was like, well, they haven't chosen that one then, have they?
But again, it comes down to the brief, doesn't it? I'm thinking surrealist and certain specific artists. But if you just take the word surreal, you can do whatever you like. So good on her for going, right, this is my take on surreal. But,
Yeah.
you know, when you come to judging it, how do you then judge that compared to someone else? You can't be biased because someone's done loads of Salvador Dali and this is a different surreal, can you? So...
No.
Right, MNOP. So we're down to the T's now. So Tony Beanie. No, that's we're being haunted by that. There.
So I actually did quite like this. I get what they were saying. Oh, it's quite a basic sew and everything. Yeah, it was a basic sew, but he did it well. We've always said that. We said that with the Bake Off.
Yeah.
You're going to make a Victoria sponge, make the best Victoria sponge.
Absolutely.
You're going to make a shift dress, make the best shift dress.
Yeah.
You know, he'd done it well. He put that "this is not a dress," thing on it. He'd got the whole style. It was there. He didn't just sew together a black shift dress. He thought all about it. Again, it's his interpretation of it. We had the rain clouds, we got the black dress. I liked it for what and I thought it fitted the brief quite well.
Would it have been even better, the classic even better, if the letters were in bold white or even neon colours, a variety of colours? Really?
No.
And explain.
I think that's what part of it is, because you're going to enter the room and go, oh, that woman's got a black dress on. And then as she gets a bit closer, you're going to see it. It's that idea that you then have a different view of it when it gets closer.
See... Were you ever on a debating society? I know we don't have them much over here in the UK, but you just answered that and trumped my answer perfectly. Brilliant answer for that.
We don't all have to stand out. Some of us like to blend in. And make a small statement rather than
and I love it. You get almost two things out of the dress: a stunning dress from a distance, and then you get like twice value for money. That's what I'm trying to say. You get close and you go, ooh, something else to talk about. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Love it. Okay, and then we then have Tony W. So let's take Tony R off. Tony W.
I mean, I thought his cards were marked by the time we got to this stage anyway.
Yeah.
But then even when I looked at it, I was like, I don't really get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought that it was it was something half decent, but I didn't.
The
really
silhouette looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's this bit, isn't it?
And unfortunately, like I said, his cards were marked going into this, and it wasn't good enough to absolutely. If he'd have done something absolutely stunning,
it would have made.
You would have then gone, "Oh my god, he saved himself!" Wow! It wasn't that good. It was good, but I also struggled with his concept. So to me, it was kind of like, "Yeah, you're off, mate."
I think you had this have been better, because I can see what it almost looks like. It's inside out, and the feathers should be going upwards like that. I think had that have been sorted, that would have changed the garment considerably, because it almost looks it's on her. They're not sitting right, are they? It's a shame. But when you look at it there, she's fabulous walking down the catwalk there. I think they could have probably done something more with her hair, though. It just looks a bit limp in a way. And I don't know whether I felt like that with this whole round. It felt a bit flat to me in general. I don't know why. When they were walking down the catwalk, all of them, it didn't feel like, wow, boom, boom. I almost wanted more, maybe a lighting change.
It wasn't a unifying theme. Not when we had the African stuff the other week or whatever.
And that blew us away when they were walking down and they were doing this
Yeah.
with their hands and everything. But even there, it looks a bit half-hearted in that respect. It kind of lacked that characterization. And sometimes the models really lift the catwalk bit, don't they? And turn a garment that doesn't look too good, but suddenly they put it on and they lift it and make it look phenomenal. But this whole, there was just something about the feeling of this whole round which made me ended up feeling a bit ugh. But yes, it was sad really when we got there, but it then got close because we then had Vicky, and Vicky had not that one. Why does Tony keep reappearing? And then we had that, and it was, I know, but the skills there, though, Ting, you've got a load of this quilting. She did some wonderful quilting. She was using the walking foot. She did some binding on there and quilting on this top. Loads of skills.
Yeah,
but
and while it is the sewing bee, they weren't asked to make a quilt, were they? She used all her time doing that, and then it didn't really fit properly. And it didn't, she had that big gap underneath. It was then too thick because it was a bit like with the crochet stuff. You're making a dress out of a quilt then.
Yeah.
You got all of that in the back there.
I know, but look at that. If you know anything like binding, like me and Ting do, that's exquisite binding. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but if you knew anything about fitting a garment, they had to make this fit their...
Yeah.
No, but
it's true.
Honest,
it's true.
They had to make it fit
It's
their
made
model. The model was stood there. All of those pattern pieces should have been put on to the model. Whereas I think what she did was kind of think, oh, well, I've got this rough idea of what I need to do, and I need to get this done because I've got to do all this quilting and binding and everything else. That she lost an element of the fit, and of course. Once it's a bit like the crochet stuff from last week. Once you cut the crochet blanket, you're buggers. And it was a bit like this. Once you've made it all and quilted it all and binding it all, you then put it on the model and go, oh, bugger, I've got all this slack in the back. Well, you can't take it out. If it had been a flat piece of material, you'd have put a dart in. Yeah. You'd have taken it in a bit. But because it was so thick, she couldn't really do much with it. And she backed herself into a corner with that.
It's a mixed mash of stuff going on as well. And that's what come back to my year sevens. You can imagine some pupils doing that. They're so overwhelmed with what to do. I'll chuck this in, I'll chuck this, I'll chuck this in, I'll chuck this in. And then you end up with, a hodgepodge. Because I think...
I'm starting to feel scared of your year sevens. It's a good job you don't teach anymore. Clearly you couldn't do it anymore.
It's been my early days, and you learn from that. I will redeem myself because one of my last projects with them, after building experience, it was another class, probably 3 or 4 years later. I did a project inspired by the work of Angie Lewin. If you know Angie Lewin, she's a stunning lino print artist. Go and Google her. And we were looking at seed heads, landscapes. But then when I set their final project, I said, it's inspired by Angie Lewin, but you need this in it. I want to see something like this in it. And I want to see something like this in. So it honed them down. And then it was so much easier to, obviously, as we've said, to mark, because you could judge and compare and go, yeah, his is better than that, and so forth. But yes, it was an odd one there, and as I don't know whether it was supposed to be raised from the body like that. Clever though, she tried something different.
I think she got. I think she spent too much time worrying about the quilting and not worrying about what the title was called, Made to Measure.
Yeah. Well, three slippers.
She was lucky not to go home. I think because if Tony hadn't done as badly as he had, then
because she was. One from last in the transformation round. So let's go to the garment of the week. As always, garment of the week. Who did you think garment of the week was going to be before they unveiled?
I must admit, I didn't really know because I wasn't impressed with the last round, and it's very rarely that they pick garment of the week from one of the other rounds. So I was a bit stumped. I went by what they said. I know they were impressed by Fauve, and I know that they did like Mia's, and I liked Mia's. So part of me was like, well, but like I said, when you saw the sheet straight down, you were like, yep, it's not Mia.
Yeah. They gave it to Fauve. Well, that's why you have judges. They have to make a decision. But I think the whole world probably thought that it was going to be Mia there. Asma. I think. Could be wrong. Let us know in the comments.
I don't think you could give it on that. I don't think you can give it on that transformation challenge one.
Oh, really?
No, I don't think you can. But
Even though one year
I didn't
Thingy Bob won
anything,
it for
but
her grapes.
none of the made to measure were particularly wonderful. I didn't think so. It was a difficult one to call, really.
You don't think that was better than the grapes, though? The grapes lady of a couple of years ago?
Well, maybe, but that'll be about the only time we've seen it happen. Every time else, it's normally on the last round.
Whew, right. Well, there we are. No more slippers, or are you going to throw a slipper at the idea of it being Kids Week?
Well, you could preload it for next week because Kids Week's going to be cool, isn't it?
And it's called Kids Week.
Actually, you can because when they showed the clip for next week, yet again, so we're moaning that they don't have enough variety, and yet again for Kids Week, what are they doing? They're making a little girl's dress. They're not doing anything else.
Sorry, I got triggered, got carried away. Yes, you're right. I know.
You've got to cut me off. You know, we moan about them saying, oh, well, they've been doing all these stupid other things. Why can't they just do a shirt? Why can't they just do a waistcoat? Why can't they just do that? And then yet again for Children's Week, they're making a little girl's dress. It's always a little girl's dress. And that annoys me. Because why are we allowed to repeat that? And we're not allowed to repeat anything else that's ever been made?
Well, it's going to be interesting next week, Ting, because next week we've got a proper fashion designer with us. So,
what, you think that means I'm going to relent the floor?
So there's going to be next week, we've got a wonderful upcoming fashion designer. I've been following him for some time on Instagram. Ryan Ricks, there he is there. Take a look at him on Instagram and YouTube. Brilliant little designer from South Wales, Swansea. He's going to come on to give us his opinions as a trained sewer fashion in the world of fashion. So I think he might give us a different. Hey.
You brought him on Kids Week?
Well, it's just the way it went, booking him. It would have been this week, but he couldn't do. So it's now next week. But it will be interesting, talking about talent. And he can give us a run for our money. See whether his opinions mix with ours or not. It's going to be good fun. So hope you can join us for then. Great week. What did you think? Let us know in the comments. And if we get so many comments, we'll just end up liking them. But we'll try to write something. Love it. We love having you watch and join in and keep carrying that conversation on. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye.